In a neighborhood where property lines were supposed to be crystal clear, a small strip of grass ignited a storm. It was no more than 3 feet wide, running between 2 driveways, but its ownership was suddenly in dispute. One neighbor claimed it was theirs, part of the survey line from decades ago. The other swore it belonged to them, citing landscaping done years prior. At first, it seemed like a trivial matter, but tension brewed quickly. Each mowing, trimming, or planting felt like a territorial move. Soon, the HOA began receiving complaints, and the conflict escalated. The strip of land became a battlefield. One neighbor planted flowers along the edge, only for the other to rip them out the next morning. Trash cans appeared strategically placed, blocking the disputed area. The feud spread beyond the fence lines, spilling into community gossip and late-night rants on the neighborhood forum. Residents whispered, taking sides in a war no one thought would happen over a sliver of grass. Frustration grew louder, and the HOA board, known for cracking down on far smaller offenses, could no longer ignore the escalating standoff. Intervention became inevitable. The HOA board called an emergency inspection. Clipboards in hand, they measured, photographed, and reviewed old maps. But even the board found conflicting records. Property surveys from years past overlapped slightly, leaving the ownership ambiguous. Instead of settling the matter, the HOA issued stern letters to both parties, warning against further unauthorized landscaping or destruction. Neither neighbor took it seriously. One erected small stakes and rope, marking territory. The other rolled out fresh sod, daring anyone to remove it. The strip of land had become more than property, was now about pride, and neither side would yield. Tempers boiled over when one neighbor installed solar lights along the strip, illuminating it like a runway at night. The other neighbor, furious, yanked them out and tossed them aside. Witnesses gasped as the confrontation played out in broad daylight. By now, the feud was the neighborhood's entertainment, drawing spectators from porches and sidewalks. The HOA, overwhelmed by angry emails and complaints, threatened heavy fines. Yet both homeowners remained defiant, each convinced justice was on their side. The strip of land, once unnoticed, was now the most contested piece of property in the entire subdivision. The HOA's patience wore thin. A certified notice arrived at both homes, demanding resolution within 30 days or face escalating fines. The neighbors responded by doubling down. One ordered a private surveyor, convinced the evidence would prove ownership. The other contacted an attorney, preparing for a full legal battle. Meanwhile, children were forbidden from playing near the strip, fearing it would spark fresh disputes. The tension was suffocating, and the board grew desperate to contain the chaos. But every attempt at mediation only fueled the bitterness. What began as a petty squabble was spiraling into something bigger. When the private survey arrived, the results only deepened the divide. The measurements placed the line in almost the exact center of the disputed strip, leaving interpretation open. Each neighbor twisted the findings to fit their claim, brandishing the report as proof. The HOA board, weary and exasperated, debated drastic measures. Some suggested fining both until compliance was achieved. Others wanted to force arbitration. Meanwhile, rumors swirled that the case could head to court, dragging the neighborhood's reputation with it. The community grew restless, wondering how far 2 stubborn homeowners were willing to go over 3 feet of grass. The tipping point came when one neighbor erected a tiny private property sign directly in the middle of the strip. The other responded by planting a bold row of shrubs, creating an instant green wall. Overnight, the dispute transformed into open hostility. Fines poured in from the HOA, but neither side cared. The spectacle drew attention beyond the neighborhood, with photos of the feud circulating online. The once quiet street was now infamous, a cautionary tale about how pride and property could collide. The HOA board, losing control, knew a final decision had to be made before chaos consumed everything. In the end, the HOA stepped in with an unexpected ruling. To end the feud, the strip would be converted into community-owned land, maintained equally by the association. Neither neighbor would claim it, stripping both of their victories. Furious but defeated, the homeowners were left with nothing but resentment and embarrassment. The HOA enforced strict maintenance, ensuring no one touched the area again. The land itself became a symbol of wasted energy, where pride overshadowed reason. The community moved on, but the feud left its mark, proof that in HOA neighborhoods, even the smallest patch of grass can cause the biggest wars.